Well, good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here today, and thanks to Marie and all the organising team here in the Upper Hunter. Great to have such a good roll-up, and fantastic. So it's a good day out, and I think what a better way to start with Joel. He's such a fascinating speaker, and I think you all agree, you know, there's so much complexity and information in this space. As Marie mentioned, my son George and I and my wife Jo, we farm just north of Mullaley, and I suppose I'll be the farmer hat today, and we'll get into some practical examples of what we're doing, and you'll be able to knock me down because we're cropping only, but we're trying to do things that mimic, perhaps having integrated livestock. We'd love to have e-collars on some self-shedding sheep and somehow get that into our system, but we can't do that yet. But that's probably for the future for us. Just quickly before I get into it, I just like, obviously as a grower and for all of us here, a lot of growers in the room and probably a lot of diverse enterprise mix, I think it's amazing what's happening in agriculture, especially here in Australia. We're one of the few unsubsidised agricultural industries globally. And I think, as tough as it is, it's actually made us better producers. The innovation in Australia is amazing, and I think, everyone in this room would have a story to tell of what they're doing in their own patch. And I think if you think quickly amongst yourselves the changes you've made in your own business, just say in the last decade, I'm sure you can rattle off in your own mind things you're doing now differently that you were doing 10 years ago. And, it is an exciting space and the change is happening quickly, and, I think that's why you're all here, the key to grasp it. And the other one I will mention, in the regen space, and we're all seeing it, like anything in life, you get new emerging industries, new startups, and certainly it's happening in regen, where, you've got a lot of feeder companies coming in, and of course every single one of their products is the best. It's the golden egg sort of thing. I think Joel and Grant would agree. There's really no such thing. I think it gets back to what Joel mentioned, many examples this morning. You can pick out snippets of product, but there's no holy grail. It really gets back to how you're managing your business, and what you're doing in your enterprise mix, and what you're doing in your farms to get that regenerative process happening. So we'll get underway, and I'm probably going to be pointing at that, I suppose. I'll just run through that bit quickly. A few of you might have seen that. Just watch this lot. They're in every room. Okay, so we farm north of Mullaley. We're on black soil, heavy verticile floodplain, and we. From the office, most of you people would have been to Mullaley, so we've got the Mullaley Mountain to the south, and to the north, sitting in the tractor, we have Nandawar Ranges and Mount Caputar, and that's probably the only thing I can mimic that's close to Canada, Joel. I've actually been on the tractor planting sorghum mid-September, 14 degree soil temps, and I've had snow on Mount Caputar, highest mountain range between Sydney and Perth. Okay, so a quick overview of some things we're doing. I put that one at the top, getting off the methadone. So, getting off a heavy-based, buy-in nutrition program. It's going to be the same with livestock. Just trying to make our patch of soil work harder. Soil health, obviously key focus. As Marie mentioned, risk management is now front and centre. When I left college, having really tight gross margins and budgeting was probably at top of the list, but I think certainly now, climatically and where everything is, and cost price squeeze, risk management strategies in out of enterprise mix is key. Fallow management, nutrition, liquid fertilisers and cover crops. Okay, some of our practices. I should have had a laptop to look here. Would have been a bit easier than looking around. Sorry. But look, that's just an overview of what we have in place that allow us to do what we're doing, and a tight management regime with George and my wife Jo. We communicate very openly and very well, and we do it a lot. I'm lucky. My son George, when he left university, had 3 years in rural banking, and that's been extremely helpful. And so, obviously for all of us, it's just, using all the management we have is vitally important. Okay, we'll just get on to some quick slides. I won't go into too much because Joel covered a lot of it and Grant probably will too, but some basic things and principles we stick to have a good understanding of, of soil function and, what's happening in the soil has been vitally important. Just have a good education on it, like what you're doing here today, learning, understanding your soil types. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it sandy? Is it a heavy clay? Cation exchange. Does your soil type have a high exchange capacity? Does it tie up certain nutrients like Joel mentioned? Or is it freely available? I think Joel made a really good comment. Most soils actually do have the nutrition there. It's unlocking it. And, I said at Wilmot actually, it's still, I think you can all agree, when you get good soil function, it really works hard for you, incredibly hard for you. So it's just about putting some things in place in your business to help that soil function happen. Obviously, have a handle on measurement of it, soil respiration, and mineralisation. Some quick ones. About 1/80 of soil organic matter makes up soil organic matter levels. All these macronutrients. Microbial activity is essential for soils to make nitrogen. So you want that soil health for that to be function. And it can be limited by things we do in our farm poorly. And that's just a couple of examples. Everything we're doing now is with cover cropping and nutrition we still bring in some nutrition, but we're trying to complement it really smartly. And instead of bringing something in a truck, Joel mentioned the importance of have something green growing and something cycling in your soil and diversity in mix. And have a handle on the measuring of it. Just have a good idea of what's going on. For us, ground cover is the absolute driver of our business, and it doesn't matter whether you're grazing, cropping, horticulture, you name it. It's like when you walk behind the wool shed here, and there's an old wooden door lying in the grass. You pick that, or a sheet of iron, you pick it up, and the soil's going to be dark and cool under that cover. You'll have microorganisms under it. You'll have worms and activity. Well, it's the same with ground cover, obviously. It's just vitally important. And it also changes the dynamics of how the pasture or crop functions as far as weed densities. And nature will always want to put something back there. Poor soil health, lack of ground cover, it's a no-brainer. I put that gas in there or high rates of synthetic fertilisers. You're diminishing your soil function. But you've got to be careful. You don't want to wind it back too far. You can be guilty of, if you don't maintain plant health, like Joel mentioned, if you just go cold turkey and say really hard to the left, I'm going to be fully organic, or I'm so regenerative, I don't need to bring anything into my farm. I think keep your mind really open. You want healthy plants. It might be that you need a little bit of nitrogen and phosphorus, but you don't need 300 and 400 kilos of it. Just wind back the dial and then try and get the diversity mix and your livestock and other things in your business to have your ground cycling. So a little bit of nitrogen, a little bit of P, some traces. This one as well. We've all had problem paddocks, problem weeds, but through selective grazing, time control grazing, or in our case with our cropping program, diversity of rotation and mix, you can start weaning off those big costs. Can't eliminate them. We haven't been able to, but we can certainly wind them down. And yeah, like excessive herbicide use can, and I think Joel touched on it, too much of anything is probably not a good thing. It's like your diet. So you can reduce some of those beneficial microorganisms that are cycling atmospheric nitrogen and storing N in your soil. Okay, so we'll get on to the good stuff. Cover cropping, fodder crops. You can really drive it. I'm sure Grant will go into some good detail about it with his what he's doing, but I know for us, and I've got some good slides showing you your diversity mix and the plant species you use, and Joel had some good slides at the end there. You can really tweak it, and you can get very good at it. You all know your different paddocks, which ones are doing what, and which one has problem with it, and so you can start introducing species that can be really helpful in getting it where you want, where you want the business. You can keep it cheap and simple. We grow all our own cover crops, and we maintain an area that we grow through to seed. So as we introduce new varieties or species, we might just buy, half a pallet. It might be, and then that's how we do it. We just try and keep the cost down, and we'll just have a couple of swaths. We're all on 12-metre widths in our farming, and we'll just do seed increases that way. Now I've done a lot of work in cover cropping, probably over 20 years, and for us and our environment, our topography, there's been a lot of work, and there still is. Sydney University north of us at Narrabri at the Wheat Breeding Institute are doing a lot of work on summer cover crops. We had trouble getting summer cover crops to work efficiently in our heavy black soils. They grew really well, grew fantastic, but daily transpiration, high summer temperatures, 35 degree, plant a cover crop, full profile. I've got to make money. I've got to keep the bank manager happy. My cash crops are the driver of my business. The summer crops are the pillar crops for income. The winter cash crops are complement our summer crop, but are injecting cash also. And then the cover crop mix is the nutrition driver of the business. And so we found temperate season species, late summer, early planted. Daily temperatures are dropping. We're getting a lot more dew. Nighttime temperatures are cooling down, but we still have good day length and enough temperature that we're getting really good growth dilution, and then we can take it out by May so that I'm carrying a terminated cover crop right through the winter for a summer crop planting. And for us, that's been by far and away the most efficient. So we can you can play with this and your diversity mix. You got to be careful when you're introducing, if you've got a whole mix of species in your air cart or your combine, your small grains can really get in front of you. So if you've got legumes in there, like field peas or something, the larger seed, and you pick up a handful, you want the ratio really high in the large seed, and the small seeds, because you've got so many of them, the kilo rate will be such less. So if you had, say you had a mix of oats and field peas and brassica and whatever, you could easily swamp the mix with a small grain like canola or a small grain like the cereal grain compared to the field pea. Like you could think you got field pea in there and you want the nitrogen, you want the legume, but when it grows, you'll have a job finding it. So just be aware of your ratios and play with it, and grant, you get good at it, but it is a bit of a skill. Joel mentioned this high tillering, high shoot root ratio is really, really important. You really want that cover crop working hard for you, and it will. And then also for livestock guys, you're in the box seat. You've got good nutrition coming in, and with the animal cycling, manure and what have you. You've got mulch and that being put into the soils, and you can bring it down or graze it down with mouths. So you're really in a good position to use cover cropping really effectively in a grazing business. And this one, we get a lot of knockers, especially up where I am. just in a very intensive cropping area, you can't grow a cover crop, Scott. You can't possibly remain profitable cover crops using moisture. But cover crop is so fantastic. Temperate season, going into autumn, we're picking up around 1 millimetre a day, putting probes in. So 25 days, you've got 25 mil, no rainfall. You can pick up that much moisture from dew, morning and night. And things you forget about, like Joel touched on it, not only do you have the plant photosynthesising and respiring, pulling in CO2, drawing out nitrogen, N from the atmosphere, and he mentioned the grass mix, how well the grasses will start fixing nitrogen. It's quite incredible the nutrient pool you can build, but the key is you're not harvesting your cover crop. We take it out right at the end of the vegetative stage, so that's about 12 weeks. We grow varieties for us because we're croppers. It's vitally important that our cover crop mix all reach enthesis at the same time. I need all my species getting to the end of the reproductive stage at the same time. If I have too much alternate or diversity, if I have other species that are flowering at, say, 14 weeks or 8 weeks, what happens? It becomes very hard for me to terminate it by just crimping alone. So you get good at that. You work out what species do what. They can work hard for you. And quickly, by terminating the crop at 12 weeks, that's sort of the maximum filling the fuel tank. That crop has transpired, respired. It's pumped in as much nutrition as it possibly can, and it's got that plant absolutely ready to go into reproduction and fill its grain. And that's when you're taking it out. You've got all the nutrient, fuel tank's chock-a-block full. It's all sitting there in the root exudate. You've got it at depth, and it's highly plant available for your next cropping sequence or grazing sequence. That's sort of explaining how it works for us. So this roots mat usually maximum prior to reproductive stage, as I mentioned. We're terminating an enthesis, I've gone through this, and capturing and conserving moisture daily. And that is then generating a huge increase in your microbial activity. Because like Joel mentioned, because you've got something growing there, the soil's not getting baked over summer, it's not bare, you don't have weeds wanting to compete. If there's weeds in the cover crop, it doesn't matter, they're part of the mix. We don't lose any sleep about what comes with the cover crop. You don't tend to get a lot because the cover crop's so competitive. For us, across our 3 properties, we're mainly rain grown, by the way. We're about 85% rain grown, and we have a small amount of irrigation with bore water. But that's about the ratio that works for us in our system, around that 15 to 20%, and we just keep ticking around the farm. And you get very smart at your cover crops. You can have a problem paddock up the back. It might have thistles. You could have another paddock over there that's got sodium problems. It's sodic, it's dispersive, it's crusting. You can start catering with your mix to the soil type. You've just got so many choices and things you can do to play with it, whether it's weed birds and soil amelioration, nutrition, maximum fattening. You want the cover crop to do some jobs plus fatten your stock. You can start getting really smart at it. We find for us, again, so cotton and sorghum are our pillar crops. By far and away, they're our biggest income drivers, and they're just fantastic. Having a terminated cover crop in autumn, carry that really thick cover. You like sort of, it's about that deep. Soil's in darkness, diminishing weeds, and you get that big beneficial boost of nutrition for the summer crop. There's certainly challenges. It's not all, in the 20 years we've made so many mistakes and hurdles and frustrations from Jo, my wife, saying, can you blokes just, for Christ's sake, pull your heads in and try and not be innovative, because it can be costly, when you're trying to come up with new ways of doing things. We sort of slowly work out what works for your patch. And then obviously the soil structural benefits and the nutrient pool you start getting. Okay, get into some slides. So Joel mentioned this. Just so important to have this beating that, your root shoot ratio. So, you've got a single cotyledon emerging, shoot, and you can already see a big hit of roots coming, lots of hyphae on it, 3 or 4 leaf over there, and you can see that root shoot ratio. That's the driver. So once you start taking care of your soil, once you start taking care of compaction and some other restraints, and once you get that vigour and plant health, that's the sort of thing you want to start seeing in your business. And then you can customise your mix. Joel's worked on it, talked about it immensely, but you can really customise it to what you're wanting to achieve. So this picture here, you can see it's heavily brassica laden. The next one, so you can see there's a lot more grass in that, a lot more cereal, a little bit of brassica. So this one will generate in our system a lot more nutrition with that sort of mix. The prior one, I think I've got more photos. This is just again showing some different species. Joel had the species well, like this big fella here, tillage radish, really good in a highly tight compacted paddock. But it takes some shutting down. It's got so much energy. Again, because we're cropping, it can take some serious taking out. Like it doesn't want to stop growing. Just showing healthy root structures, different stuff there. For those that haven't seen it, so this is a machine George and I built, chevron pattern. So that's a flat 100mm blade curved around 650mm pipe. We got those profile cut. So that chevron pattern is really effective at crimping the crop. And the idea is you get maximum weight across your machine as it's rolling because of the chevron pattern, as it's curving like an auger versus say a straight blade. You'd have all your weight concentrated on the blade if it was flat, and it can tend not to crimp as well. It's really important for this to work that the crimping action is bruising the stem of the plant, and that's what will terminate it. And if it's not doing that effectively, the crop will grow back. And so then you're faced with the additional cost of maybe 2 or 3 passes with herbicides. So it can be highly effective. Cropping, flatland, grazing, hills, rocks, scrub, lignum. It's bloody tough. You can put a backpacker on it, and it's probably the one thing on your place you won't be able to kill it. It was a big job to build that. Ours is 12 metres wide. We got the blueprints from Rodale Institute out of the States, and they happily will give you the CAD drawing. And George and I are pretty handy on a welder, but we reckon we wouldn't make another one. That's just showing. So we just used an old toolbar we had, utilising old stuff we had lying around, and made it 12 metres wide. You can just see, so our bearing widths, we've got our tractors on 3 metre centres, and we put the bearings on that centre width, so the wheel's actually compacting the wheel track. I think the next shot, that illustrates that. So the bearing there, wheel there, still working. So heavy. That's a heavier brassica cover. You can see how high it is over there. So it's highly effective. It just totally lays it down. So for George and I, this is our sort of South African savannah, where the buffalo and all the hooves have come through and knocked the grass down. This is the closest thing I can do as a cropper to mimic a grazing regime. It's been the best thing we've ever introduced to our business. So this is more reflective of the type of mix we use. So we use heavily laden legume, in our case rye. We use cereal rye, but again, your species selection is really important. You can use oats. Oats is really good at bringing up P, phosphorus, and making it available. You can use triticale. You can use pretty well anything you want. You can use wheat. You can use barley. If you've got something in a shed, if you've graded your grain, you can put all your gradings in, weeds and all. Just you don't need to get too head up about it, I believe. This is the sort of result we want. So I want total ground cover. I don't want to see the soil. I want that ticking away all winter. I don't want the soil exposed that's going to grow weeds. That's capturing a lot of moisture, and you got that big nutrient pool just building to generate income on your next crop cycle for us. Now, I mentioned the importance of species selection. So this particular one, we were playing with cover crops. So this will just play. So it just shows you how effective the machine is. But the cover crop, that's a forage sorghum. That's about nearly 2 metres tall. Would have been about, that was early December, I think I was crimping that. So it's done a great job and it's crimping well. But you can just picture the moisture use that cover crop's taking out. I've got to make money. So for me, that one wasn't so, it just wasn't an efficient way for us to be getting nutrition. And the fact that it's so big and competitive, it would outcompete any legumes and things we were putting in it. Like we played with sunhemp and a whole heap of other stuff, cowpeas and things. So that one was out. Graziers, millet, it could be a fantastic option. Do you want allelopathy? Do you have a huge weed burden? Have you bought some land that's been poorly managed, covered in weeds? You can tweak your cover crop mix. So you can put a lot of brassica in it. It'll give you a lot of allelopathic control, a lot of biofumigation. You might do that for a couple of years, get on top of your weeds. Again, it crimps okay. This one will show you. So this is rye, field peas only. Just gives you an idea. Again, so that's probably about 1.2 metres tall. So that's about the 4th week of May there for a early March planted crop. And it just shows the machine rolling through it. And it just shows you how effective it is. If you've got the planted anthesis, just takes it out. If it's not at anthesis, it doesn't have enough lignin in it, and it'll spring back up and it'll still be alive. So the timing is really crucial for this to work, and that's why for us it gets back to my species mix has to reach anthesis together for this to be effective the way I want it to be to keep my cost down. Does a great job, and then you set yourself a whole new set of challenges for planting into that really serious residue, but I'll come to that in a little while. So you can see for grazing, again, or you got thistles out in the paddock, you can have a lot of uses with it. Rightio. So this is just a photo 10 days post-crimping. So you start to get the decay and the crop dying off reasonably quickly. It's not too bad. I think the next slide shows 30 days. By then, not the clearest slide, but ground's totally covered up, crop's crimped effectively, it's dying, and it's just like, say what Costa does on the ABC in his vegetable garden. You've just got maximum ground cover. The microbes love it. It's keeping the ground shielded and protected, and you've got all that nutrition just cycling away there, and your microbiology chewing away on that stuff. And it's a very effective tool. You can do other things. In our case, we can bring in complementary things or like harvested wheat. That's mung beans. So we had a rain event, and I thought, well, this wheat fallow is going to cost us X amount, $40 or $50 a hectare to carry through, right through till the following year for a summer crop. So in this case, the profile's full again. We planted mung beans between the wheat, got some income off the mung beans, and created some effective ground cover. That one's just a slide showing controlled traffic. So we limit all our compaction really strictly to just the wheel tracks of the machinery, with the intercropping zone, that 12-metre swath never trafficked. And we're really strict on that. Like, a road train can't come into our business and just turn around on the paddock, tractor turn around or a header turn around or anything. If you start allowing that, It'd be like, again with your grazing animals, grazing your paddock down too hard. When you start bringing in that sort of precision into your business, it really makes huge differences, and especially to your soil health. I think that slide is just showing, we're direct drilling sorghum into a cover crop mix. So that cover crop mix was a really dry year in 23. We only had 35 mils of in-crop rain for the winter season, and we got cover crop till about 8 weeks, and there was just no rain on the horizon. Again, summer crops are the pillar crop, and we made a decision to call it. So we took that cover crop out with a herbicide at 8 weeks. Still generates some good cover. The nutrition's not quite as high. Like the nutrition ratio is directly correlated to the amount of growth and the length of growth you can get, and especially if you can get that lignification happening. But, again, you've got to be flexible in what we're doing. And we've all seen it. This is what we want. We want lots of hyphae. We want that symbiotic effect happening. We want to be able to dig up our roots and find that it's alive and that we've got lots of these goodies growing all over the roots. And, it's very satisfying when you start seeing your soil health and the smell, obviously, and your next crop is just going to be so incredibly responsive to it. This one is showing us, so this one is the same cover crop that I showed you before rolling. So now we're planting cotton in this example, and it just shows you the challenges. There's half a foot of residue there. We've got a trash whipper on the front of the planter. We're planting the direction it was crimped, and that planter is absolutely working at its max to get good seed-soil contact. It's actually very, very difficult. So much so, as the cover crops are getting better and better and we're getting better at it, we're now building a strip tiller that we can just cut a little track, put a little bit of nutrient. That's putting liquid fertiliser in there, that squeeze pump, injecting in about 80 litres of liquid nutrition biology every row, and we heavily inoculate seed. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so you create other problems, and especially in cropping. But, discs are the answer. We don't use any timed implements. They wouldn't handle it. It'd just make a mess. But you can see once you get, you can see the crimping too. See the crimping mark when you look across that residue? Even those little dents on a little low rain event will help capture moisture. So that's just showing that would be probably 25, 30 days post-planting, just coming up through the residue. But it's vitally important you have your planter set up to get it to work through it. And then just going through the season, just showing, you've still got good ground cover, the crop's emerging, it's growing, it's healthy, low weed pressure further on in the season. So that's sort of getting up post-Christmas. Still plenty of ground cover. Crop's got good colour and no weed burden. Just another shot. Something else we've done differently off the back of the horrendous drought we all had. Maybe it's something that's achievable in grazing systems with maybe stock numbers, but for us, we grow our summer crops on quite wide rows. In this example here is 2.4 metre rows, so we're only growing 5 rows on a 12 metre swath, which some people just think is absolutely ridiculous. But for cotton and sorghum, especially cotton, it's actually a really good, we treat it almost as part as our cover crop. Cotton has got, it's a perennial. Cotton's a desert plant. It's incredibly efficient at moisture scavenging and scavenging nutrition. It'll punch down roots well over 2 metres, and then your following crop, whether it's a cover crop or a cash crop, that'll follow all that old root channel down. And when you do it on wide rows, it'll go even harder. But it gives us a bit of this risk management tool. That's a full profile. But if it does not rain for the entire season, George and I know we're going to make income off that field. We're locking in like a profitable crop because it's got enough moisture to grow it on its own. So little things like that is how we've tweaked our system to make it really resilient. one of the few livestock I have. It's only a very light footprint, but that's just showing towards the end of the season that, there's still good ground cover, just starting to see little bits of soil showing, but it's still there. It's breaking down. It's on the way to really being eaten up by now. Crop's getting to full maturity, but you can see it's punched on heaps of yield and it's really healthy colour. It's hard to maintain that if I was putting it in with a truck. And, we want a good result. We want a good profitable crop. And there's still cover crop under there, but fairly diminished by this time of year. Just another shot. And, I think I've got... quick. That's just a quick one. Picking, just showing. So it's a level landscape, obviously, and just showing that that's a picker George and I modified heavily. You can't buy it from the factory like that. So to do a 12-metre swath, to have the machine on 3-metre centres, we had to change a lot of stuff. It took a bit of engineering to build a 12-metre front. It's a bit of a monster, but it works quite effectively. And that's just about resilience for us. That crop's got to make income, rain, hail or shine. And the days of knowing, like we're sort of 630, 640 millimetre average, but the rain falls all over the shop. Luckily we have good soil types that hold good moisture if you look after the soil. This one's just to show you, anyone that hasn't been in a cotton picker, I just threw this in quickly. So from the cabin, just give you an idea of, harvesting a cotton crop on the wide rows. You can see residue and sorghum stubble from the previous year. So we mulch. This is really important. We mulch all our stubble and get all the residue down on top of the soil. Cotton, wheat, you name it. It's something we weren't doing a few years ago, but it's been a very effective tool now that we've got a lot more microbial activity and the soil's functioning so much better. It really eats up it, and we found that just a standing dry matter above the ground, like a typical spray fallow, really wasn't doing as much favours. We thought it was pretty good, a typical no-till system, but getting it mulched and getting it on top of the ground, and then the crimping is actually doing a bit of that hoof inversion into the soil, is certainly helping the situation. This next one, so just go quickly cover liquid fertilisers. So we batch, we just bring in bulk the biology we want, the nutrition we want, and make it ourselves. This one, hang on. So just 5,000 litre tubs. In our case, we're just using an aquamarine tank, like fish farms would use these. So centre draining, electric single phase motors with a propeller. Slide doesn't show it. I think the next one does. We have 300 mil PVC half-cut pipe around the vat. This here that stops the water vortexing. That one's a milk vat, so that one would be full of amino acids and fulvic, and then we'd be putting the main bionutrients inoculant in this one, and we'd introduce that fulvic and the other aminos across into the tank, and then we can go straight into the spray rig and put it on as a foliar, or we can load up the planter and put it down at planting time or pre-season. So that's fulvic and nitrogen and phosphorus. But it just gives you an idea. It's pretty easy to mix. I mean, it's another logistical challenge you've got to do in your business, but it can certainly bring you considerable savings making your own nutrition, buying in the raw ingredient. Because as soon as you get someone else, Bob Boost, they've got people making it. They've got many hands making it, and they've got to make a profit, so they're going to charge you a lot of money. So it's readily available. You can buy nutrition, bring it in the raw firm, and you can tweak it to your own business, to what you want to add to your paddock. So this one is a really good, so an old cement mixer, $4,000. We use this thing all the time. So we inoculate all our seed, whether it's legume, pasture mix, cover crop, You can inoculate it, put all your brew, your biology in the cement mixer, and then just auger it up into the truck to go into the seeder. That would be the best thing we have. Inoculating seed, regardless of what it is by far and away, we find, the most effective way to get that nutrition, that hyphae. As soon as the plant's germinating, it's just there. It's happening straight away, and it's really cheap on a tonne of seed. Like it's just such a simple thing to do. Often, frustratingly, you've got to wash all the other rubbish off. Like if you're buying something from Pack Seeds or Pioneer or whatever, it'll be loaded with fungicides and all this other crap. And they will, you try and buy black seed, they won't sell it to you because they tell you their product's the best. But it's highly loaded. Sometimes it can be quite toxic for what we're trying to do. So unfortunately, you've got to pay top dollar, got to wash all that rubbish off. I think I'll put the biology on it. Sounds crazy, I know, but yeah, that's sort of how it works. This one's just a shot. So that's the squeeze pump. So on that particular planter, I think there's 64 planting units. So we have liquid back behind the cart, and that squeeze pump is just a rotating drum with low-fat hose that's just good thing about a squeeze pump, because you've got a tine like right here and then you've got a tine 6 metres away. The squeeze pump is just gives you the same injection across the width of the machine regardless of the hose length. 5,000 litre tank, we cart that we put the biology in. This shot is just showing you, so this was a drought-affected wheat crop, and we've talked all morning about the importance of bringing ground cover back in, getting something green growing. We only had about a foot of moisture here, but we're direct drilling in a cover crop mix, and this is very late February. So again, just trying to keep the cycle going, just get it back into business, think, okay, I'm going to take the risk on that foot of moisture. The cover crop is going to start capturing some dew. I think it'll rain. And that's how we do it. We just take the punt and try and keep it really flexible. But you see how I can see all the soil there? That's going to grow weeds and it's going to cost me money. So right back into cover. And then the good old one, I've got a paddock and it's really rough. I've just had 1,000 head of steers in here or something and it's really rough and pugged up. Do I need to plough the whole paddock? What we do, and you've probably seen these, we will just ameliorate just the wheel track. We try and avoid full cultivation at all costs. We just want to maintain that ground cover all year round. It's so important. So you can see there, just renovating the wheel track to level the soil out because it can get bloody rough, and they get highly compacted and quite deep. That's just a shot, just a winter cereal, probably August. And then, when you get good, you've all seen this, heavy black soil, but the crop's working really hard, a bit hard to see, but really cracking open. It just means the crop's got the energy and the soil health is there, that crop is punching down really hard, well over 1 metre, no rainfall, but it's growing a profitable crop. And then once you get that soil health happening, it's very, very satisfying to start seeing the functionality returning, and a couple of simple things that aren't that simple, but really they are, you know what I'm saying, but just probably looking at a big picture, and again, regardless of your enterprise mix, just how you can start, I think, getting your system, I suppose, simpler and put some enjoyment back into it. Sorghum, as mentioned, it's a very important crop in the system and complemented well by the cover cropping. Just showing that's on 60-inch rows. This is a quick shot of harvesting, so it just shows you the importance of controlled traffic. So the bin is on the previous controlled traffic lane, header doesn't make it, so we have a simple board on the chaser so that the header's on the controlled traffic lane, the chaser bin's on the controlled traffic lane, and there's no inter-row compaction at all. Little things like that have made a massive difference for us. And then, of course, big picture, whole farm planning, buffer zones. We still have a few koalas up in our area, not as many as there used to be. but buffer zones are really important for integrated pest management. Obviously, a lot of you would already know this. But, you know, just the wind buffering effect, this is all on our northwestern boundary, you know, refuge for birds and insects and things, and it definitely helps. Just a quick one. Joel hit on it, so obviously you want a good handle on what your pastures are doing, what the nutrition's doing. My recommendation would be just keep your tests independent. This is a SAP test, so I don't run into Nutrient or Landmark or whoever or Insightec and get a soil test from a fertiliser company. I think it's important to maintain that independence. This particular mob in Tasmania, we just send down our tissue, our PDLs or whatever in a little plastic bag, but you just fill in the history, and then it'll come back with quite a comprehensive readings of all your nutrition, where the crop's at, the growth. Yeah, I've got the growth stage. And once you're in a cycle and that soil health's happening, you start getting silly things happening. NH4, NH3, you know, maybe toxic. That's off the Richter scale, but it's not all plant available. But just starts to become very satisfying, thinking, okay, my cover crop, probably only a quarter of the mix is legume, but the cover crop is really fixing some nitrogen. Most things are fairly satisfactory down there, very typical of our heavy basalt black soil. Magnesium, like boron's usually down a little bit. We only need a spoonful. In our liquid mix, we put about 1 kilo to the hectare. Zinc, be the same here at Merriwa and your black soils at Merriwa. Typically, the zinc readings are down. We get a return on investment if we put a bit of zinc in. Phosphorus, not so much in our soil type. We are putting phosphorus on, but depending on the form of phosphorus you're using is really important. Like if we put on MAP on our heavy clays, it's really highly tied up. Soils have a very, very high cation exchange, up near 100, and a product like MAP is just so inefficient. If you put on 80 kilos of MAP, 5% of it. So we tend to use guano or tech grade MAP, so a water soluble product that's highly plant available. And Joel mentioned about when you have things like that aren't so available, if you're putting it in the ground with a planter, foliars really come into play with the cover cropping, because the plant can. Joel talked in detail about the transition and the plant doing the work to change that nutrition across to a usable form, but a lot of the plant can take it in through its stomate readily, through foliars. So it's a good, efficient system. And then for us, we had to get smart at what sort of machinery we were using. You know, some of the stuff we were buying off the shelf was no longer able to handle the crop residue we were doing. So for us, we got Boss. We wanted a forward folding planter that we could travel down the road without having escorts, and we wanted, good disc cutting capacity, good clearance. And so they built this for us, and we built it just solely so we could plant into heavy residue and cover crops. This just gives a quick shot of it going. Narrow spacings. We've got single disc units packed on the 12-metre toolbar as close as we can get them. For us on this toolbar, it's 12-inch spacing, 300 mil. I don't think this slide's actually that clear. I think I might have another one. It'll just show the planter here in a sec. So again, even though we've harvested sorghum there and it's mulched, you can still see there's pretty good ground cover. But we're coming straight back in. In this case, this was just back in autumn. We're planting that double cropping it straight back into wheat. So just keeping the factory going. I'll zoom in. Yeah, it doesn't show the disc very well at all, sorry. But vitally important, I want a really low disturbance machine. I don't want to see where it's been. I don't want to be disturbing the seed bank. This shot shows it better. So it just gives you a close-up of the disc units cutting the residue and a very, very low footprint. But the machine's got to be able to handle really heavy residue. That's what it does. Yeah, a bit better shot there. You can see that's pretty thick on the soil there, on that soil surface. And that's cutting through it, yep. And hopefully, we get to the end of for us, it's about grain in the bin, and for you guys, it's probably kilos, of beef. That's what we want to see. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.